You can have all the systems in the world, but if you don't have heart, you don't have, you're not authentic, then none of it really matters. And donors and people will see through that. Gratitude is the most unused fundraising tool there is.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Ryan, and I'll be your host today. You are listening to the Basecamp podcast, sponsored by Pacific Northwest Fundraising. Today, we're closing out the year with a conversation that I think, honestly, every nonprofit leader needs to hear. We're talking about how to set yourself up for fundraising and development success in 2026. Joining me today is Eddie Allen, the founder and lead guide of Pacific Northwest Fundraising, or PNWF, if you prefer. It is a firm that helps nonprofits build real fundraising capacity and stability through what he calls the fractional business model. And if you haven't listened to the episode directly before this, we talk about that a little bit there. But enough preamble. Eddie, welcome back, man, and happy almost New Year.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. It's always great to be here. And, what a year it's been. I think everyone in the nonprofit world deserves a medal for just making it through 2025 this year.
Oh my gosh, you are not kidding, dude. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened this year, both good and bad. But it's definitely been it's been a roller coaster. Before we look forward, though, to 2026, I want to take a quick look back. What stood out to you most about fundraising this year?
Yeah. I think it was 2025 was a real year of realignment. A lot of organizations came out of survival mode and started to focus on sustainability again. We saw donors become more values driven, smaller nonprofits realizing that they don't need to scale staff, they need to scale systems. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit. And, one major thing I noticed, we've talked about this and this ongoing issue within the nonprofit environment, is that development turnover continues to just, hurt organizations and cripple them. It's not because people don't care, it's because nonprofits often expect one person to do the work of an entire development team.
You are not kidding. And I mean, I don't think it's always that they know that that's what they're expecting, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily that all of them know that they're expecting one person to do the job of many people, but that's definitely a theme that I've heard just all year. One development manager or one executive director expected to write every grant, to run all of the campaigns, and still somehow manage the donor relations on top of all of that.
Yeah. It's a recipe for failure, Ryan. That's why we were built around the idea of shared capacity, giving organizations access to a full development department at a fraction of the cost. Because the truth is, most small nonprofits don't need 10 people. They just need the right systems, the right rhythm, and the right support team.
And you know what? That actually functions as a good little segue into what I want to talk about next with you. How to actually, how to actually set nonprofits up for success in 2026, right? So when I say set somebody up for success, I know what I mean by that, right?
Right.
But I am not the one in your position actually working hand in hand with these nonprofits. When you hear or you say set up for success, what does that mean to you? What does that look like?
Sure. It starts with clarity, right? You need three things in place before the year begins. A clear fundraising strategy. What are you trying to fund and why? The systems to make that strategy repeatable. A donor relations management system, CRM system, communications, grant calendar, an annual giving plan, if you will. And then really the thing that brings it all together, a strong storytelling framework, because donors respond to stories, not spreadsheets. And those three, we look at them as, the three S's right here: strategy, systems, and storytelling, are what we call the Pacific Northwest Fundraising Framework. It's simple, but it works every time.
The PNWFF, the Pacific Northwest Fundraising Framework.
Yeah, and the old KISS system, but in this sense, keep it simple, smarter, not, keep it simple.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, smarter.
Smarter, yeah.
There's a comma in there.
Right.
I like that. Keep it simple, smart. We can build him better, faster.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right.
So, clear strategy for fundraising, repeatable systems,
Yep.
and storytelling framework, which bro, preach. you,
Yeah.
we, I know I told listeners just a second ago to go back and listen to last week's episode to learn more about the fractional business model, but like, I have a feeling that's going to come into play here too. So could you give
Hmm.
me like the TLDR, too long, didn't read,
Yeah.
like this cliff notes on that? What is the fractional business model?
Yeah. Sure. It's basically the idea that instead of hiring one full-time development director, which can cost, with benefits, $130,000 total to the nonprofit, nonprofits can contract a fractional team like Pacific Northwest Fundraising that provides all the same functions: strategy, grant writing, donor communications, campaign management for a portion of the cost, typically 40 to 60% less, right? So the real benefit of this is, I mean, a couple things, right? The benefit is consistency, and then nonprofits get access to senior level expertise and execution without the overhead or burnout. Myself and Sherry Martin, my right hand person, we have 40 years collectively together in all aspects of fundraising development, being executive director, major gifts. And I think that one of the things I'm most proud of about the firm is that our advisory board, collectively has like another 75
Mm-hmm.
years of experience. And we're really set up to share that wisdom and experience with our clients. My mentor, Stacey Graham at the Humane Society, and myself, I mean, we were all around in the recession of 2008, COVID, 5 years ago. There's some upheaval, with grants and the current administration, without
Mm-hmm.
turning this into a political podcast. But, there's always something is the point, right? And my
Yeah.
team has the lived experience. We're a sage archetype, steward leadership. So we're here to provide that, um, you know, in a time like now, and create sustainability fundraising and development systems.
And it seems to me like I know we're not getting political at all here, but it just what you're saying about how this turnover and hiring an executive director and all
Yeah.
that can cost over 100K, right, for an organization,
Yeah.
when you include the benefits and all that. Like, with the way that things are looking right now in the economy, that number is just going to keep going up. Like
Yeah.
what that ends up costing. So this whole model that you're talking about, that fractional business model, just seems to make more and more sense as time goes on,
Yeah.
especially for smaller organizations.
And that number, so that's a Chronicle of Philanthropy number. And that with, salary and benefits, $130,000 and a turnover of every 16 months. Again, I myself personally, I think that number is low because it's just salary and benefits. It doesn't take into account what we call mission interruption with that turnover,
Mm-hmm.
the damage it does to the brand, the distrust with donors, and the stress that it puts on staff over this turnover. And you're creating a culture of failure, right? And so, when you build this model right, what we want to do with our clients is that you're not outsourcing this, right? You're building internal capacity. It's about teaching organizations how to run sustainable fundraising systems long after, we're gone, right? And maybe they keep, and we've talked about that. We can start at one level and come down because we're contractors. But like any
Mm-hmm.
good business, this is infrastructure. People win the lottery, they or they get married and move, right? That
Mm-hmm.
should not upset the apple cart, right? This is organizational data, those donors have, and thinking it that way versus putting it all on one person in a completely unsustainable job and position. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a much better model for much less cost.
Well, and the individual shouldn't be the organization. The individual should be, sure, the face of the organization, depending on how things are going, could be a massive part of the organization. But if that one person is the organization and they leave,
Well, you know how I have really strong feelings about that. That was another podcast, but
that was,
I
yes.
I think you can get in real, and we see this, right? We'll just touch on this briefly, okay? Like the face when it comes, you got to have one person to do face to face,
Yes.
right? You 100% do, okay? Absolutely. But the face of your organization, the brand of your organization, is who you are, who you serve, and the impact on the community, right?
Yes.
That's forward facing. And if you think about it this way, we've had that conversation. Sure, we know, Jeff Bezos at Amazon or Mark Zuckerberg or at, Facebook Meta thing, because they're big, out there all the time. But nobody knows the CEO of Coca-Cola, right? I mean, but we
Yeah.
know the brand, okay? We know the brand, and it's ubiquitous, okay? They've probably had more than one, over the past, right? And so
If I may nerd out here, it's like James Bond,
it
right?
is like James Bond, now that you bring that up, and that
Right?
is kind of nerdy,
007,
but
different people, but it's still 007.
so right, that's the brand, right? And so again, I push back on that a bit because yes, you do need one person to lead donor development and major gifts. But I think in this day and age, it's a mistake if that person is also the face, right? I mean, Joe
Yes.
Campbell does a fantastic job of this at the Houck Foundation. She's been there for 8 or 9 years, so people connect her with that. And so, right, that's the trust that donors
Hmm.
want. But they lead with the impact of their storytelling and the children and the students they serve at the Houck Foundation, right? And that's really important to Jill in her legacy, and it's what makes them successful. It's a broader approach.
So how, if building internal capacity and teaching organizations how to run a sustainable fundraising system, you said long after the current face of things is gone, how do we get tactical with that? Right? So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
say I'm a nonprofit leader listening to this like mid-December. What should I be doing right now to make 2026 my best fundraising year yet?
Great question, Ryan. I'd start with a few simple but powerful steps, right?
Hmm.
Do a quick fundraising audit. Look at what's worked, what didn't, what needs to stop. Map out your 2026 calendar. Identify one key fundraising focus per quarter. Don't try to do everything at once. I mean, we're huge proponents of your annual giving plan, okay?
Hmm.
And get your donor communications rhythm set. For example, monthly newsletter or impact update, quarterly campaign or appeal, 2 gratitude touch points per year that don't ask for money. The goal is to create uh, uh, to be predictable, right? Both for
Mm.
your donors and your team, right? So it's a campaign, put it in place, work it backwards, create your assets, and launch them, right? And I think we see so many nonprofits who they're just not doing this, and they're trying to do it the day of, which means you're way behind, and it's just a recipe for failure. And I think, this big thing with it too, and one of the places where we start our work with a lot of our clients is to invest in data hygiene. I can't tell you how many organizations lose donations because their CRM or donor relations data isn't accurate or segmented. Clean that up early in the year and everything gets easier. I mean, if
Mm.
you don't know how can you ask anybody for money if you don't know who to talk to, or for gifts, right? If you don't know who to talk to, or know that they're a Blazer fan or like to hike or establish a relationship with them. And so data hygiene and letting that work for you is really, really important.
So you're saying I can't just ask everybody with the same blanket statement?
No, see, I, there are systems, right? Organizational
Hmm.
touches that you're storytelling across your database and social media. Sure, that's one aspect of it, okay? But yeah, then we, identifying your top 20 or 30 donors and that relationship building with them. That's another channel, right? And yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. We're trying to make everybody fit into that one channel.
And that never works.
Well, and that's kind of an outcome of the one person trying to do everything. So, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, everybody got this, but there's no time because I've got to submit this grant by the end of the week, and so it's a bit chaotic, right? Hair on fire, which again, I think that the industry the industry was kind of, when I started, that was almost like a badge of honor, right? That you worked 80 hours a week and you
Mm.
had Windows 95 or something. And that's a true story. That happened to me. But anyway, that big, and so we get used to doing uh, more with less. And, I mean, this idea of one person doing all that, and, I've said it before, the analogy I use, it's just like hiring your plumber to build your house. And no one would do that, right?
I do love that analogy because it just makes so much sense. Just intrinsically, it makes sense, or
Yeah,
intuitively. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Just no one would do that. And yet we
No.
continue to ask, I was an average at best, maybe a little bit above average grant writer, right? And that's why this team approach, Wendy's an award-winning grant writer, and Sherry loves databases, and Kirsten, who has her degree in social media marketing, and even though I had a digital background, years ago, I mean, she needs my wisdom, I need her technical chops, and I just don't see how you can get that in all those. There's specific jobs and specific roles and specific gifts and talents.
It's that whole thing like you don't want to promote somebody out of a position that they absolutely excel in into one that they're not the right fit for because they might be incredible in that position, like social media manager. You don't want to promote that person out to head of community relations or something that would take them out of what they're good at. You
I,
nurture that person in place. You give them whatever it needs or whatever they need to thrive there, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of shifting gears here.
yeah,
It's the caffeine. My brain moves a mile a minute. But
sure,
like, we're talking about we don't want to shove everybody into one channel because
yeah,
that's not correct. That's not a
right.
good way to communicate with
No,
anybody.
yeah,
You're naming specific positions. You're naming specific people, right? Like, and we've talked so many times on this podcast about how everything is relationships. Everything
yes,
is relationships and trust between people. That is the human side of fundraising, right?
yes, yes,
And that's not where it stops either, right? Like everywhere you look, there's a different human part. There's empathy. Tell me what do you see as the
yeah,
human side of fundraising?
yeah. I think it means remembering that fundraising isn't about asking for money. It's about inviting people to invest into something they care about, right? I
Hmm.
mean, think of it as every donor is really saying, I want to make a difference, but I need help figuring it out. And our job is to connect that impulse with meaningful action. Literally the tagline of my company, connecting mission with passion.
That's I really like that. I re- because you need speaking of people that you need to be in specific positions handling specific things,
Yeah,
you specifically connect that impulse with that action,
that's
right?
that's
And I
it.
think a lot of us who don't specialize in that, or I guess maybe even people who do, like it's easy to get caught up in the mechanics of everything, right?
Hmm.
And forget that it is about that human connection.
Yeah, I think it's really important, right? That you can have all the systems in the world, but if you don't have
Mhm.
heart, you don't have, you're not authentic, then none of it
Yeah,
really matters. And donors and people will see through that, right? So, and I'll add this. Gratitude is the most unused fundraising tool there is. The more genuine thank yous you give, the stronger your donor base becomes.
ooh, I like that. And it's like every time your parents told you say sorry, and you're like sorry, and they're like no, like you mean it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Thank
yeah, you're
people.
looking for that genuine. They're looking for that genuine apology in the parent-child relationship. That's
Yes.
not what we're talking about here. We're talking about genuine thanks. But like
Genuine
yeah, you
connection,
can tell when
and
a company is just saying, "Hey, thanks everyone." You know, it's not the same.
it's not the same. Yeah. Um, yeah. So gratitude, express it, share thanks. It's, it's been around for a long time. It's not really reinventing the wheel, but I think the wheel is broken, and just oftentimes places just don't have the time to do it. It's not that they don't have the empathy or the compassion; it's just the time. And any system that fails within 16 months at this 80% failure rate and that cost, it's just broken, right? I mean, dad was a math teacher. My stepfather owned a small business, and If anything failed 80% of the time like that at that kind of rate, we would have stopped doing it. And
That's
right,
fair.
it he would have stopped. I know that for a fact, God rest his soul, and we just the stats are out there with that. So again, I know we've talked a lot about that at different times, and this was more it's still part of this conversation, right? It's like if you're going into 2026 and your fundraising development, you've had turnover, it's stagnated, so on and so forth. We'd love to chat with you. We want to get you moving from to focus, not frenzy. There's this chaos that kind of goes on there, right? Your big rocks. Choose 3 things and do them really well. Build your systems, tell your story, and stay consistent. Keep it simple, smarter.
Keep it simple, smarter. That's a really good note to end on, I think. Not that I
Yeah.
want to cut this short, but you and I, we could talk for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like,
Oftentimes we do.
I know we
The
do.
outtakes on the podcast.
So, so there's so much good stuff, and I know we talk fast. Everybody listening to this, go back and give it another listen, right? Like, because like Eddie said at the beginning of this, I think it all starts with clarity,
Mm.
right? It's you want to have the clear strategies, you want to have the repeatable systems, you want to have the storytelling framework, and you want to know where you're at, where your donors are at, where the people you're helping are at. And it sounds like a lot, but Eddie, I think what you're saying is if you get those systems in place, it just becomes this well-oiled machine.
That's what you want, right? Sustainable, not only now but in the future. That's really defines our work. I think that defines every nonprofit out there. So, Ryan, sure appreciate being here. Here's to a strong, steady, and expiring 2026 for everyone in the nonprofit world.
Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, of
Thank you so
course.
much for closing out the year with us and being on here again. And I do mean that. You know what? That is genuine. That is what that is. You see, I brought it around.
You
I
did.
brought it
That was
around.
well done. You're a pro.
Thank you. Folks, everyone listening, if you would like to learn more about how Pacific Northwest Fundraising helps organizations like yours build sustainable fundraising capacity, you can connect with Eddie and his team at pacificnorthwestfundraising.us. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us again, for hanging out with us here, and we will see you bright and early in 2026. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.